Wes Streeting admitted the timetable is likely to slip till 2032 or maybe beyond that. The Health Secretary was responding to a question from the Conservative MP for North West Norfolk, James Wild. So I've been speaking to the MP. What does he make of this latest development?
Very disappointed at this decision. It's concerning for staff, patients and the local community. The Hospital Trust only last week said that they were ready to start work on the multi-storey car park this year and then work on the hospital itself next year. The Labour Health Secretary has now pushed that date back, and he's pushed back the date of the new hospital opening from 2030 to 2032-33. We know that the end of life of the hospital is 2030. That's based on independent safety advice. So it is concerning. And the only sliver of hope I can see is that there's going to be a further review of the specific situation at QEH and other RAACs. And we'll be making the case that it needs to be done, and we have a plan to do it.
Although it sounds a long way off, it's not, is it? 2030. So it's understandable that this is now delayed?
No, it's completely not understandable. The Labour Party promised at the election that the hospital would be done. The Health Secretary gave me a commitment in November that it would be done, and now they've just adjusted the timetable. It will, by the time this other report comes along, it will be a year since the election, and nothing will have happened on the new hospital programme in King's Lynn because the government hasn't taken the decision. So by delaying this programme, they're damaging hospital and healthcare in North West Norfolk, and they're breaking promises that were made to people who work there, the patients who use it, and our local community. The Conservative government committed to a 2030 timeframe, and the government said that they would match that, and now they've gone back on that commitment.
There will be people in the Kings Lynn area, though, who think this is a bit rich in that there were lots of delays, weren't there, and kicking cans down the road in the time when the Conservatives were in charge. Well,
for the 5 years that I've been elected, this has been the issue that I've raised the most. I've been campaigning for it. I got it onto the list of the new hospital programme when it wasn't on there, and got a commitment from the last Conservative government to get on and make progress as part of a fully funded scheme. And what's happened since is the government who said at the election they were committed to the new hospital programme immediately came in and said that they would review it. And now they've come along and delayed the new Queen Elizabeth opening by 2 to possibly 3 years. The Health Secretary did say yesterday, if we can go faster, then he's up for that. Well, QEH have got plans. As I say, at their board meeting last week and ahead of it, they said that they were ready to go on the works on the hospital, beginning with the car park this year and then the main scheme from next year. There's no reason why that can't happen, and the Health Secretary needs to look again at this issue.
We've heard quite a sort of a gentle reaction from those in charge at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Clearly they want to stay on side with the government who are going to spend a lot of money on this project eventually, we think. But do you think in the background there may well be a lot of frustration at the QE?
Well, it's for the hospital to speak directly, but I know from the conversations I've been having that we were hoping and expecting to get some progress on some of the business case approvals for the car park work, for example, to be starting quite soon. That's now under jeopardy and presumably won't be happening. And they've been working very hard. They've just appointed a host of consultants in the last 6 months or so to bring in the expertise and advice to work on this scheme. And now it's all been paused and shunted back. And they've got all of the people who work at the hospital and all of the patients who use it are now once again having disappointment from a further delay when there isn't a need to do that. As I say, QEH has got a plan to deliver by 2030. So I do hope that when the government looks again, does this further review, that they recognise the urgency in the case, because they've got to answer the question, why are they effectively ignoring the McDonald's safety report that said that 2030 was the date by which we needed a new hospital?
And the consequences of this delay for patients?
Well, anyone who goes into the hospital, as I do regularly when I meet with the trust leadership, will see the issues with the props and the patients in beds around props and that the staff are having to cope with aren't conditions that anyone should be having to put up with. And now what the Health Secretary has just said is that he thinks it's fine for that to go on for another 2 years beyond what was already planned. Well, I don't agree. I don't think anyone in West Norfolk would agree that this is the right decision to have been made when the plans have been, after a lot of delay. I was as frustrated, more frustrated than most people, having been trying to make the argument. But once we'd made the argument and persuaded the last government, there was then a plan ready to move forward. And unfortunately, since the election, that has all stalled, and it now looks like the government's going to delay it even further. So I only can hope that they will think again, and I'll be making the case and working with the trust to demonstrate the urgency of this.
James Wilde MP on the line from Westminster. Many thanks.
Thanks.
You heard Mr. Wilde talking about RAAC, that is the concrete rot that is affecting the ceiling at the QE hospital and many other places around the country as well.